Hey everyone, we recorded this during a power outage, so unfortunately we couldn't use video, but we used our portable recorder for the audio. Also, there is a mature warning advisory for this episode. We talk about some very sexual themes and overtones because of the nature of the episode. So just to let everyone know, there is a mature warning, viewer discretion advised, listener, whatever. You get what I'm saying. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the episode.
Venture into the shadows with hosts Jordan and Ashley as they peel back the veil to reveal in-depth images into a different realm. One of strange events, places, occurrences, phenomena, and sometimes even horror. Join them as they journey through the spooky door.
In this episode, we are joined by our good friend Jade Kinkade. Jade is an erotic author, spiritual healer, a student of the esoteric, artist, a relationship guru, and just an all-around sexual deviant. But in this episode, we turn off the lights. Literally, it was recorded during a power outage. And dive into the underworld of the notorious sex demons of the Incubi and the Succubi. We go over real-life cases involving a succubus, involving one with the famous warrants. Later, we talk about sex magic, what it is, how to do it, and its benefits. We also discuss sleep paralysis, shadow people, and mental illness versus paranormal. So dim the lights, pour some wine, as we go into the depths of sex demons and sex magic. And welcome to the Spooky Door. With us today is Jade.
Hey.
And this is probably the most cursed episode we've ever done.
Probably.
We rescheduled.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
We rescheduled this like 5 times now.
And
Thanks.
now the power's out.
Thanks to COVID, sinus infections, and yeah, it's been a deal getting this episode together. And then, of course, right before we record, the power goes out. Luckily, we're using our recorder that has batteries, but there's no cameras.
So,
This is going to be an audio-only version podcast because there is no power.
extra spooky door.
And also, it's thunderstorming outside, too.
So, yeah.
To add to the ominence of candles and storming, I guess.
It's very romantic,
It's
actually.
setting the mood. So really, is it cursed or is it perfect?
I guess. I don't know.
Depending on how you look at it. I'm
Especially
going to go with the second one.
Especially for today's topic.
Yeah. So I feel like it's perfect, actually.
So, sex demons.
Minus all the sicknesses that led up to this. That was
COVID. Yes,
was sucky.
Sickness isn't very sexy.
I got COVID. Jade got like exposed
I
to
got
COVID.
Exposed.
Ashley thought she had COVID.
Yeah, I thought, but I didn't. I think I just had, so it wasn't COVID, and then I thought it was just the regular flu, and I think honestly it was just like a super cold.
Yeah. So, this episode's been rescheduled so many times, and now we're in the dark with candles.
With candles, but we also have booze, so I mean, it's
That's
okay.
true.
Candles and booze.
And
Some
thunder.
of my favorite things.
It's kind of sexy now,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
The lack of AC kind of sucks, though.
Well,
You're also sitting in between 2 sexy ladies.
that's
right
probably
now, so
true.
That is
It's
very
probably
true.
honestly the real
heat's
reason.
turned up.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was going to say I'm fine, but then again, like
You're also the closest to the window.
that's true. That's true.
Okay, sex demons, incubuses and succubuses. Ashley, what are they?
All right, so the definition I have is specifically to an incubus, but an incubus demon in a male form that seeks to have sexual intercourse with sleeping women. So it would be vice versa for a succubus, obviously. The corresponding spirit in the female form is called a succubus. In medieval Europe, union with an incubus was supposed by someone to result in the birth of witches, demons, and deformed human offspring. So it is understood that incubus or succubus is a type of Lilith demon, so like a demon of Lilith, in female or male form that appears in dreams to seduce men or women, usually through sexual activity. The descriptions of the same can be traced back to folklore of medieval times. They also are known to be aggressive.
I've always heard there's like a specific progression of this, that it all starts with the succubus who will seduce a human male often while they're sleeping, to extract their semen. And then the succubus gives human male semen to the incubuses, which are the male succubi. And somehow the incubus turns the male semen demonic in some way, and then the incubus will rape women in their sleep, and that's how they justify, well, not justify, or how they explain, how they justify.
This is why we did it.
That's how they explain, like, children that are born with birth defects. Of course, this was the medieval times.
Yeah, this is
They're like, it's
AKA when everyone was stupid.
I know, like, every medical problem is explained by demons.
well, this is like, oh, you have ghosts in your blood. Here, drink some whiskey, and I'll solve that.
Listen, there's so much like shit I've learned about like in medieval times that I'm just like, the fuck were wrong with these people?
If only it was drink whiskey. No, it was like, drink this liquid mercury. We're going to put
Yeah,
some
right.
leeches on you
Safe.
and take some blood out of you.
You'll be fine. You'll be all right.
You've got to drink cat urine. Like,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
always the grossest thing.
Yeah. I also read that later succubuses popped up with witch hunts. Women who were tried to seduce men were accused of being a succubi in disguise, while women who became pregnant outside of wedlock were accused of consorting with a incubi.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I feel like in medieval times, like, women were accused of like everything for the slightest stupid thing.
Yeah, all throughout patriarchal society, we always need to find a way to vilify women for owning their sexuality or doing anything that men don't approve of.
Right. I can do it because I have a penis, but since you have a vagina, you should not do that.
Yeah.
I know that statement sounds incredibly stupid, but like honestly, that's what a lot of things it just comes down to. Like,
Yeah.
The patriarchy is very stupid.
it is very stupid, and it still exists to a degree today,
And it's still stupid.
which is why we have ultimately. I feel like that's why we have the incubus, the succubus
Yes.
thing. Like, I feel like that's really like.
Well, there's been some reported cases of incubus and succubuses in more recent times, like last 10, 20 years. But I wonder if that's more like psychological effects
Yes.
rather than like,
There is a thing called the incubus syndrome.
what is that?
The incubus syndrome is what they call, it's a type of sleep paralysis where when you have sleep paralysis, you're known to hallucinate things.
Right.
Except the hallucination is a result in someone hallucinating that they're being sexually attacked by a demon. Ultimately is what it is in a nutshell. I have the definition here in my hand, but honestly, it's way easier for me to word it that way than read it because that's essentially what it's saying.
Right.
That just sounds like such a like wimpy cop out. Like, I have these sexual urges that I can't explain.
The term they use in the definition in my hand is approached by an unseen lover. Imagine having to go to the doctor and like explain that.
I've been trying to be free of sin, but I keep having these episodes at night where I wake up covered in my own semen.
There's a
You're just having a really good dream.
there was a preacher, and I was going to load up the video, but of course we have no power, so I can't do it. But he was talking about incubuses and succubuses, and the guy, I mean, he made some. It's a preacher, but he's not like fire and brimstone, blah 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 blah. He's actually not like totally out of his mind. But he was talking about
Yes, he is. He just hides it better.
yeah.
Right.
Well, as far as like we had like that one guy, you know, who was doing the witch hunt type stuff.
Listen,
like that guy was crazy.
He was straight up crazy.
But this guy was
But
talking.
he was also like trying to get a reaction, I feel like.
Yeah. But even he was just like, this guy was talking about like supernatural things happening. He's like, well, we believe in a higher power, so why wouldn't supernatural stuff happen? If we believe in this, why don't we believe in like some of this other stuff? So it's kind of cool, but he was talking about wet dreams being responsible for like demons and stuff like that, which made me kind of laugh. It's like, well, no, there's actually like scientific method of why that happens.
Like, I've never understood that either. Like, when some people that have like religious beliefs are like, yes, I believe in God and I believe in angels, but if I hear somebody tell a story where it involves a demon, that's not true. That's supernatural and it's made up. I'm like, well, you're saying that you believe in the one side, so I'm assuming that you also believe in the other side because you're saying good and evil. You're trying to tell me heaven and hell, but if somebody tells you a story about a demon, then it doesn't exist. I was kidding.
Well, I just only like to justify the things that further my own ideals.
And I also just want to use the other end to scare people into believing what I believe.
So this guy, I mean, on top of that, but he also talked about, and he told a story about a girl who couldn't. It was like, oh, there's a reason why like women who aren't married because they're being like attached, like they're being attacked by demons. Like women who are unmarried are being attacked by demons. That's why they're unmarried. That's what.
Maybe they're just lesbians.
That's when he started dropping. Well, he actually brought up the fact that this girl was dating all these guys and like nothing was going on. And I'm getting like, where are these preachers getting these stories? Are they being told this by somebody in their thing, or is this something where they're just going online or something like that? But he was talking about this girl not being able to marry anybody, so then she ended up dating girls because she's like, well, the guys aren't working.
Doesn't like the dick.
But she said like at night she felt like a force was like watching her and like controlling her and all this stuff. So she said she set up a mirror. And then at night when she woke up, she saw like a lady like with like wings, like devil wings, like standing over the bed.
She set up a mirror and saw a lady in it.
I know.
She saw her own reflection in the dark.
So
I saw this lady and
she
wanted to have sex with me.
And
I was like, yes.
Yeah, so he was saying like, she was seeing this demon, and the demon like had a hold of her, and it's like that's not why she can't like get with anybody because the demon like was controlling. Like she's like, no, you belong to like me, essentially.
Or maybe she was really just trying to justify to him that she was a lesbian because she didn't want to straight out say I'm a lesbian because she knew he might judge her.
Right.
She's like, no,
I
nothing's.
feel like that's what that ultimately sounds like.
So
nothing's wrong with me.
With me, it's the demon one wants me
so if
to
you
like.
if you go on YouTube, you type in preacher succubus, it's the first video that pops up.
It really just seems like that's just her way of saying to like him, like, I'm gonna be a lesbian and I don't have a choice, so you can't judge me.
Right. But it did fascinate me for the fact that he was saying that like people believe in like superpower, like the super whatever God and stuff like that, but don't believe in like the darker stuff.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that's just ridiculous.
And he was like, we all have faith and stuff like that, so why don't we?
I think it's extremely hypocritical to be like, like, I believe in this, but I only am going to pick out the things that like suit me.
Yeah, cherry pick.
Yeah,
cherry
like,
pick it.
because you're telling me like you believe all this stuff and like, without getting too specific, all this stuff is laid out in a certain book that you read, but the bad stuff is in there too, but you're going to say that that's not real.
The bad stuff in there is the best part, though.
It kind of is.
I remember talking to my grandmother at one point about the Bible because, like, she was raised on the Bible, that's just what you did, 100 years ago. And I was telling her, like, about, like, the book of Revelations, and I was like, do you know, like, all the stuff that they say, like, that you can't do and the demons? And she's like, what? That's in the Bible? And I'm like, haven't you been reading the Bible all these years and you don't know about this? And like, she's like, no, it's just it's the good book about good things. And I'm like, Grandma, I got news for you. And I opened up the Bible that was like right next to her, and I'm like, read this passage here.
My favorite thing too is like I've been recently like reading and watching a lot of stuff where they further research certain stories, and they've found that there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that is basically they're saying this happened and it was like God's will, but it was really just stuff was happening that they didn't understand. Like they didn't have a way to grasp like,
Right.
oh, this city is being destroyed because I think one of the things is it was maybe
a natural disaster.
Yeah, it was some sort of natural disaster. I
Earthquake or
don't remember
something.
if it was like a volcano or if it was like an asteroid, but it was one of those two things that they said like that's most likely what had happened from the scientific evidence that we're following, and they just didn't understand that. So that's how it was explained away. Like, we don't understand this, so
Actually, the best conspiracy theory that I've heard about like explaining why people saw like miracles and like these crazy things happen in the Bible is that like during the time that it was written, because of like the soil, like the moisture in the soil or whatever, it was perfect for growing psilocybin, like the magic mushrooms. So like people were probably like eating these magic mushrooms and
again
just,
though,
like,
yeah, probably, yeah,
hallucinating.
probably. I mean, that's not like out of the
Like, that's-
realm,
that
but that
seems
kind of goes
accurate.
with that kind of goes with what I said. They just like they didn't understand the things that we understand today. So obviously, if you don't know what like. If you have no comprehension of like, imagine being back in the when you don't have a comprehension of like what even an asteroid is, because you know nothing beyond like where you live. You don't know about the universe and outer space, and all of a sudden this big fiery ball like
It's a dragon.
comes out of the sky, and you're like, holy shit! Like, what are you gonna think?
Well, there's evidence too, like of a great flood.
Yes, there is. That's one of the other things I was going.
They
They said that it probably did happen. There was probably it probably
lots-
wasn't throughout the whole world, but it was probably in that region where like there was probably a massive flood.
Also, when we're talking about Revelations, real quick, not we're gonna do a deep dive into this, but my grandfather was a very religious man as well, and I remember my brother was asking him about Revelations, and he just like looked down and shook his head, and he was like, "You can get 10 Bible scholars in a room and bring up Revelations." He's like,
Like,
not
we just like to
one.
ignore that
He's like,
part.
not one person is going to agree on anything about what's in
Right.
Revelations.
Because it's open to interpretation too. A lot of stuff
Totally
is.
and it's
I will also say, without getting too like deep into it, obviously, because I'm not gonna go like deep into every little thing. But there's also something worth looking into if anyone is interested. There's also they have been able to scientifically explain the parting of the Red Sea and how that
interesting.
would have happened. And when I was like first like looking into that, I was like, well, this should be interesting to see how, like, I wasn't sure if they were going to have like a believable scientific explanation or if it was just something somebody BS. But then I was like, oh, okay, no, that actually seems pretty legit.
Okay, so this is from the Industrial Psychiatry Journal. I might screw up some of the stuff, but this is going back to about succubuses. No, yes, succubuses. So this is going back. This is going back to succubi. This is someone who had all kinds of different things. 18-year-old male from middle class, no family history of mental illness. Sorry, I'm going to kind of abbreviate some of this. He had a continuous illness of 3 years duration, characterized by delusion of persecution, delusion of reference, delusion of grandiosity, delusion of control, auditory hallucination of commanding and discussing type throughout broadcast, apathy, poor self-care, and marked social occupational dysfunction. He also elaborated someone having sexual intercourse with him against his will on a mental status. He also mentioned he felt like he was having sexual intercourse with someone against his will. Upon examination, the patient appeared to be very much distressed with his psychopathology. He described the phenomenon of auditory hallucination and thought broadcast. In addition, the patient explained that at night, when he would go to his bed, he would feel the sensation of being touched by a female whom he described as a good-looking woman.
How terrible.
Oh no.
It sounds like a nightmare for an 18-year-old boy.
He would be able to feel his private parts being touched, leading to an erection and ejaculation.
Well, I'm sure somebody made him feel like it was a nightmare.
As per patient, he did not want this experience. This would happen against his will, would feel guilty about having such an experience and having sexual
Again,
contact.
somebody probably made him feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
Would feel
A really attractive woman wants to have sex with me.
Shame on you.
So he said he felt guilty about having such an experience and having sexual contact with an unknown female. He was fully convinced about having such an experience. Very occasionally, he would get up from the sleep after this experience and remain distressed and fearful. In his explanation, he had a strong belief that a witch was doing so, but would not be able to would not be able to point out the exact figure of which. His cognitive functions were intact, and he had poor eyesight.
So how did he know that she was attractive if he had poor eyesight?
She was a very attractive blob.
She was maybe a very attractive blob.
She was a really sexy beige thing with brown points.
So he has no history of insomnia, narcolepsy, hyposomnia, sleep terrors, nightmares, sleep paralysis, anything of that function of those functions. All his other organs and tests came back negative, so he was fine. He was started on can't even pronounce this drug, which was increased up to 15 milligrams a day, which with all symptoms including the phenomenon of succubus improved completely. He would now report lack of any such experience, but was not sure about the previous experience being real or part of the illness.
So I will say
the drug is ARIPIPRAZOLE. Ariprazole? Something like that.
I have no idea what that is.
Know.
It's probably a psychoactive.
So that's that's one of the true
psychoactive.
first. That's actually a true case study they did on succubuses and schizophrenia.
So I will say, like, for me personally, like, I've had sleep paralysis in the past. I've never had like a sexual incubus succubus experience or anything that was sexual. But I have had the ones where you hear about where like people are like convinced that someone or something is like trying to kill them or come after them. And I've only had it I feel like I maybe briefly talked about on an episode before. It was like a year I had it, and in that time I was sleeping in a certain place. I haven't had them since outside of that place. So yes, it could be stress of the environment, or it could just be that environment. But being somebody who's had that experience, I understand how people can be, and I'm not saying it is or isn't, but it is really hard to like have that experience and then have somebody tell you like that's a hallucination, because you're like, no, that was not a fucking hallucination. Like, so it's like I can understand that aspect of being very convinced that like this did happen to you, but like I don't know about like
So I actually have had a sleep paralysis thing where I was like being molested, but like I couldn't see anything. It was like
but yeah, it's, so you get it, like it feels very
force.
like it feels, and it's when you're like and somebody tells you like, because
So
there are people that say sleep paralysis is like, there's like people who say it's like all in your brain, and then there's like a whole group of people who have it that are like, no, it is not.
Yeah.
So what was your experience?
Yeah. So, and where do you stand on it?
So I've actually had 2 sleep paralysis experiences, and they were in different locations, but it was kind of within the same year. Yeah, it was within the same year. And it was after some like psychological trauma. It was
Same.
It was the first man that I had ever loved, that like we moved in together, and I had been living with him for 2 years,
Yes.
and he like abruptly left me.
I know this story, so that makes sense to me.
So psychologically, I was not doing well.
No.
But so it was like after he left, I was in the apartment alone. And I remember being in the bedroom, and like he was gone. He didn't have a key. Nobody else had access to the apartment. But I could hear like plastic bags rustling and the sound of like 2 men talking in my kitchen. And it was like, what the fuck? And I heard like footsteps coming closer and closer to the bedroom, and I was like just terrified and like couldn't move or speak. But like I had like a vision of like the room around me. Like I could see things around me, but I couldn't move at all. I was just paralyzed.
And you can't talk.
And yeah.
Because you will try to talk and you can't. Like,
you can't
you'll
talk.
try to scream and nothing comes out.
Yep. And then like eventually I just like woke up and I was like covered in sweat and terrified. And that was it. And then the second time was like the more sexual of the times. And this was like right after I had gotten out of that apartment and I moved in with a friend of mine. And I was in my bedroom there. And again, like I had like full consciousness of like all the surroundings in the room. Like everything was the same. Like the wall hanging that I had was the same. All the furniture was the same. And like I had the window open. There was like a breeze blowing. I could feel the breeze on me. And I was just like laying down kind of spread eagled on the bed. And I couldn't see anyone. Like it's just like an invisible force. But I clearly felt like a hand gripping my ankle and then slowly moving up my thigh, like to, molest me. And I was trying to scream. Like I was really, really trying to scream as hard as I could. And like when I came to, I think I scared my roommate, like, because I screamed, "Go away!" like as loud as I could.
Right? No, I get that.
She was
Because
like,
like you
"What the
finally do
hell?"
get something out. Like I've had that happen to me. You finally do get something out, and it's just like a loud scream or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like also I remember like that time like there were just tears. Like I had tears like all over my face. I couldn't move at all, and when I came to, face was covered in tears and I was just screaming, "Go away."
Yeah, it's
And
terrifying.
my roommates were like, "What the hell is going on?"
But it's funny you say that because the same thing as you're pointing out, like when I had like my personal experiences, and like I will take it back now that you said I've had it happen to me a couple times where I currently live, but not as frequent as it used to be. But yeah, it's like this thing, like my eyes are open. I can see everything going on around me. Like you can feel certain things. Like I had it happen to me once where I currently live, and I could feel somebody like had their hand around my wrist and they were grabbing it as tight as they could. And when I finally like came to, like you said, like it was like, when somebody does that to you and they take their hand off, you can still feel it like for a period of time.
Yeah.
Like it's like I could still feel something.
Yes, the hand coming up my thigh was very forceful.
You still feel it. And it's really hard for me, I think, because like I get when people scientifically explain the way sleep paralysis works and how it releases the same chemicals in your brain that cause hallucinations, as like if you were on a drug that caused hallucination. I get that, but also like over here being somebody who has had it before and has had it happen to them, and like me having the thought that like, I'm very into like the scientific aspect of the world and the universe, and like there's so much about our world and like the universe itself that we have just scratched the surface of, and there's a lot of stuff I feel like we think we understand but we don't. It's hard for me to like say either way what's going on.
Well, Ben was talking about the story when my brother, when he was on the show, he was talking about the time when him and I were like kids sleeping in the same bed, and something grabbed him by like the throat.
And it wasn't you.
No, it wasn't. I was dead asleep, and he woke and he was like kind of out of it, and something like grabbed him and like freaked out, screamed, woke up the entire house. I slept through the entire thing.
Good for you, I
that's
guess.
what if the house is ever on fire, I will probably die. I can sleep pretty much through anything.
See,
That
I'm
must be
opposite.
comforting for anyone you sleep with. You can scream in my face and I won't wake up.
No, I have woken up by talking about things moving around in the dark. Yes, I have been woken up by that.
I mean, I can understand it. I feel like, but I mean, I will say I've seen you fall asleep in an airport benches at 2 a.m. and be completely out. Meanwhile, I'm over on the like bench across from you, tossing and turning because I want to go to sleep and I can't because there's too much noise.
Like as long as I can just
story.
play down, I'm good.
I've woken up on strangers on airplanes before.
Yeah.
He was a very attractive man, and he didn't seem to mind when I woke up and was like, Oh shit! Sorry.
No, when I was
Sorry about that.
He's like, no, it's fine. You can go back to bed.
No, I know I've talked this about on the show about this before, but this was a long time ago. But like one of our earlier episodes, but like Keisha and I, like she woke up screaming, and it woke me straight up, and she was throwing shit at the corner of the wall, and we could see something moving in the room.
Yeah, see, I will say when I've had it happen
Yeah.
to me,
Cockroaches.
there's
Cockroaches.
No, it was like something big in like black and white in the corner of the room, and it was like moving, and then it vanished.
I will say when it's happened
That
to me,
was in
there's
the
been
room next door.
times when
Great.
I haven't seen anything, but then there's also been times where I have seen something and I've come out of it, and like you could sit there and tell me like this is just your brain, and I would swear to you, I'd be like, no, that was fucking there, and I saw it.
Yeah.
So it's like again, it's like it's hard.
So
I don't know which like I understand both sides, and it's
So with your story, where are you at with that? Like, what do you think? Do you think that was? How do you feel about the whole thing?
About my experiences with sleep paralysis,
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah, I cannot deny I was under psychological turmoil at the time.
right. Yeah, you're like
so
that. That
Stress.
at least was true.
That checks out.
I agree with that part. You're at least that was definitely
that checks
true.
out. It felt really real,
It does. But like I feel like that's about where I'm like.
but I also feel like it could scientifically be explained
right.
away.
I'm like it could, but like
Yeah.
I also see how like I also understand the perception that it's that where people say like there's no way. There's like a whole thing about it too where is it the Hat Man that people see like
Yeah.
where everybody's seen like the same person when they have sleep paralysis and they swear like
Have you heard about the Hat Man?
the Hat Man.
oh there's like a whole
There-
documentary
yeah,
on
it's
YouTube
just
that I recommend
it's a
too.
shadow
It's
figure
terrifying.
that wears a hat.
If you've ever had sleep paralysis, I recommend watching.
And it's lots of people have reported seeing the same thing.
Same thing,
exact
same
same.
happenings.
Yeah.
Well, I would rather see an attractive woman have sex with me
Then some creepy like shadow figure
Trying to
like,
murder you.
moving
Yeah,
through the room.
actually, you know what?
And very much trying to murder you.
I would prefer to go to bed at night and visualize an attractive woman having sex with me.
there was a-
Can I sign up for?
there was a
Where is the
there was
sign up
something
sheet for that?
circling around on the internet there for a minute. Some pastor, again, it's going back to these crazy pastors, who was talking about how women shouldn't sleep naked because that's going to bring in like an incubus.
I sleep
And-
naked
Well,
all
I guess
the time.
you really should ask a gynecologist about that,
What?
though, because they're going to tell you the opposite.
What's wrong with me? Because I've been sleeping naked for years and I
Same.
still haven't had an incubus
Same.
come fuck me in my sleep.
Same.
Aren't I pretty enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you know there's a term called spectrophilia?
Spectrophilia.
Spectrophilia. Sexual attraction to ghosts is real. There are people all around you who believe that the encounter with a non-lively entity is a physical way that enlightens it. You can even find videos of people claiming they want to marry the ghost they're interacting with. Then again, you can also find just about everything on the internet.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
fucked a ghost and I liked it.
It sounds like some 4chan shit.
Jesus.
I've never fucked a ghost, but I wouldn't try to limit myself.
No,
I try not
why
to
should
put,
you?
I try not to put myself
You
in a box.
only live once, YOLO.
YOLO, fuck a ghost.
YOLO, hashtag fuck a ghost.
Thank you for listening to the Spooky Door podcast.
Reminds me of the episode of South Park where Randy's watching porn and he jerks off over himself and he's like, "A spooky ghost." He's like, "It's ectoplasm," and he's just covered in his own stuff
Ectoplasm.
because he hasn't like
Come.
jerked off in like 3 weeks because the internet's down.
Oh. How could you possibly jerk off without the internet?
I know, right? So much shit on there now. Going back to what we were talking about, we have another case study, but this one's actually involving Ed and Lorraine Warren.
All right. Ed and Lorraine Warren fought an extremely beautiful succubus with the Vatican's help. The succubus threw Ed around 10 feet, and it was impossible for the couple to fight the demon alone. That's like basically summing up what I'm about to read.
The Vatican got involved.
And
with
it was
this?
an extremely beautiful succubus.
The thing
Aren't
with,
they all succubi are beautiful?
It's kind of like that's kind of the basic
Hashtag
gist.
succubus equal rights.
I'm really into succubus positivity, and all succubi are beautiful.
I love it. So, shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I'm gonna like snippet this up as much as I can because it's not super long, but so the case took place in 1986 in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Involved a married couple named Jack and Janet Smurl. Sorry. Those names I did. Okay, so for clarification, I haven't read this before. So Jordan handed this to me, and I just can't with the Smurl. Okay, Jack and Janet Smurl, who lived in a duplex with their 4 children.
Apologizes if your last name is Smurl.
Their house came to be known as the Nightmare Home. The family reported several disturbing encounters. It attracted Ed and Lorraine, who went to the house to investigate after receiving desperate
Can you get that out?
Yeah.
desperate calls from the Smurls. I still can't say Smurls without
Reread that whole thing over again.
So the case,
Without laughing.
the case attracted Ed and Lorraine, who went to the house to investigate after receiving several desperate calls from the Smurls. There's a documentary apparently. The couple's daughter Heather Smurl said, "My parents see it sometimes and hear a heartbeat in the middle of sleeping." And the doors
Just from the guy they buried under the floorboards.
Probably. Or from their guy they invited over for their threesome. There was a priest that wasn't able to help them after blessing the home. They tried other people to help. Apparently they tried everything, but it doesn't say what everything entails. But they did call people from the church after the priest. The priest blessed the house. Didn't work. One night as the Smurls were laying in bed, the bed started to shake, after which they saw a black shadow, multiple black shadows move across the bedroom, and something grabbed Janet and yanked her off the bed. There was another night when both started to rise up in the air as high as the ceiling. A couple of nights later, a demonic entity known as a succubus appeared. A succubus attacks the male physically and sexually. Ed and Lorraine had to use religious provocation to try and chase away whatever evil there was. A paranormal investigator named Jeff Bellinger says that in the documentary, I don't know if I pronounced Bellinger right, so sorry, Jeff.
Doesn't matter. Jeff doesn't matter.
He doesn't, because this is the only time he's mentioned, so he doesn't matter. Ed would bring in holy water. He would hold up crosses, and he would tell whatever entities were around, no means no. Just kidding. In the name of Jesus, get out. He pictured himself as a warrior, and these were his weapons, Bellinger said. Ed himself was attacked by the evil entity and recalled how he was thrown around 10 feet onto the bed. The succubus was too powerful for Ed and Lorraine to handle on their own. They received help from the local church. An exorcist was sent by the Vatican to clear the house. And ultimately, it worked.
All thanks to Warrior Man and his tools.
His
bedroom tools.
Was his bedroom tool his penis? Was it?
So
was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
The one thing with like Ed and Lorraine Warren, I know they've done a lot of cases, and I know some of them are true.
Yes, I feel like, but there's some hype too.
There is a lot of hype, and even like the movie The Conjuring 2, where they go to the house in Britain, they were only there for like a day. They showed up and like, yeah, weird shit's here, and then they kind of left, and that was essentially their like visit to the house and the house that happened.
This
in
I do have some questions for though, because it says the Vatican was involved, and the Vatican's like
probably not the Vatican. It was probably a local priest, because they did work with the church occasionally for like exorcisms and stuff like that. So because neither one of them was ordained to do an exorcism, but they were a part of exorcisms. Like that's part of their case studies and stuff. But I don't know, like
the Smurls.
Also, I would like to say any duplex with 4 children in it should be known as the Nightmare Home.
Right.
Were the Smurls just having some sex parties and they didn't want their children caught them and they were trying to like explain it away?
That's what it sounds like to me. Like their bed vibrated. Usually you have to put coins in the bed for that to happen. So consider yourself lucky. You saved yourself 75 cents. And also they were levitating on bed. Oh, God, that's an orgasm.
Yeah.
That's some like sex magic shit.
Yeah.
Sex magic. What
Segue.
is sex magic?
Yeah, let's
What
get
is
into some sex
Let's go ahead and
magic.
talk
What
about
is sex magic?
Jade, what is sex magic?
It's fucking magical.
And it's sex. Oh, this thing says, first let me explain what sex magic isn't. So apparently you have to know what it's not before you know what it is.
Well, tell me what it isn't.
Sex magic isn't some sort of kinky parlor game. So apparently the Smurls did not have sex magic.
They just had kinky parlor games. That actually sounds really fun. Would you like to come over to my place for some kinky parlor games?
Absolutely.
So what is kinky parlor games? Is that
It's
like
not intended to jazz up a lackluster love life or increase your chances of getting laid on a Saturday night. The main purpose isn't even sexual enjoyment or procreation. Having said that, however, it's quite likely your intimate relationships and sexual satisfaction will improve as a result of practicing sex magic. I feel like I'm on a commercial. That just is,
And for 4 easy payments of
that
$19.95.
just isn't the primary objective. Sex magic is a means to an end, a way to mobilize the amazing creative power of sexual energy to generate a desired result. Basically, you do sex magic for the same reason you would do any other type of magic, to cause something you desire to happen. Your goal might be to promote healing or attract money or achieve spiritual enlightenment. When you add sexual energy, you increase the intensity of a magic spell. It's like adding more octane to gasoline.
Yes, that's true. Sex magic is using an orgasm to manifest your desires. But to circle back, no, it will not increase your chances of getting laid on a Saturday night. It actually decreases them. If you like go up to somebody at a bar and are like, you want to go over to my house for some sex magic? You have a 0% chance of getting laid.
That's not gonna work. They're gonna be like,
You'd be like, I didn't want to fuck you before, and now you're insane. So no.
smudge.
So this is something I found from the founder of the Temple of the Feminine, and Jade is going to read this.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you are. Get out our sexy voice.
This is from
going back to 9th grade English class.
and again, this is from Amy, the founder of the Temple of the Feminine.
Is it the bold thing that I'm
it's the
reading?
big bold
Yeah,
thing.
I read the thing above it. So you're going to read that.
Should I use my sexy voice for this?
Yes.
Yes, totally, 100%.
I discovered sex magic through my own self-pleasure and exploration journey. It's a powerful ritual to support you in releasing the binds of social conditioning around masturbation. And it's really hard to continue this while you guys are openly laughing at me.
Keep going.
Around masturbation and connect you back to your pure erotic energy and its unlimited potential. Through sex magic, we return to the truth that being a sexual being is so much more than just about sex. It's about being in our full sovereignty and empowerment, co-creating with the universe to design our own life. Amy, founder of Temple of the Feminine.
I feel like we did just do a giant infomercial for sex magic there.
Did I turn you? Are you wet?
Absolutely.
Did I turn you on?
So, okay. So, sex magic is essentially using the power of ejaculation to orgasm to create your intent.
Well, anyone who's had an orgasm knows it feels like fucking magic.
So beyond Amy, the founder of the Temple of the Feminine, view on sex magic, what is your guys' view on it? Jade, you want to go first?
Why not? That's my view on
I should
it.
also mention that all three of us are, practicing whatever you want to call it, witchcraft, paganism.
Sex. We're practicing sex.
Yes.
Paganism is what?
We're gonna bone right after this
Yes.
podcast.
We are
though.
actually, yeah.
I mean, we got candles lit. There's a storm outside.
We're all drinking some booze.
We're all drinking.
Setting
We're all
the
loose.
mood.
Lights are off.
That is not how you practice sex magic. just for clarification.
Well, maybe it's not how you practice sex magic, but
how
it's
we
about
do
to be.
But like, I think beyond all the other stuff we were just talking about, I think at its core, it's kind of like using your own sexual power to initiate or to activate whatever you're trying to establish.
Yes, it's a harnessing of energy. And actually, Jordan, I remember you asked me before, and this was like months ago, you asked me like if I had ever done sex magic because you were just like bringing it up as a topic. And I was like, well, I have books on it. Like I've read books on sex magic, but no, I haven't tried sex magic because I've never really had a pagan partner to like do sex magic with. And he's like, yeah, but there's masturbation. And I was like, fuck, why didn't I think of that? Gosh, I can't believe like that it's never been something that occurred to me to like masturbate during or post ritual. So while we were just taking a break here, Jordan asked me again because apparently he forgot this conversation, or maybe he was just seeing if the answer changed, and it did.
Good.
He was like, "Have you ever?"
Probably talking about this when we were both really drunk, which could have easily happened as well.
Most of our conversations, I think, happen when we're really drunk.
That's true.
We're both alcoholics, but anyways. You just asked me again, like, have you ever done sex magic? And I was like, no, wait, yes, I did last week, and I'm a liar.
So, elaborate.
So I will elaborate. As we were talking about earlier, how this podcast that we're recording today is cursed because we had to postpone it. So
many
like
times.
last week,
And now the
it
power's
was
still out,
it
by the
was
way.
my
It's
fault.
still out.
Last week it was my fault. So I was exposed to COVID, and I was like, well, fuck. Like now I have to like cancel all my plans. And I've always heard that like you have to wait like a full 5 days before testing after you've been exposed because you can get a false negative or like it's just too early to test for it or whatever. So like naturally during those 5 days I was like, what can I do to prevent this? So every day I drank whiskey.
Sounds solid to me.
Every day I drank whiskey. I took immune system boosters, and I did like healing rituals every day, and then I would masturbate right after the healing rituals to try and manifest the fact that I did not have COVID. And you know what? After 5 days I tested negative. It was completely asymptomatic. I don't have COVID. So yeah, sex magic, it might work. It could be a placebo, but you know what? I love placebos.
I don't care either way.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's a win-win situation.
Right.
Like, if it works, then, like, you don't have COVID. If it doesn't, you had some orgasms.
You still have fun.
There's no downside
You had
to
a good
it.
time.
Practice sex magic. Manifest your dreams.
Nothing bad is going to come
And
out of
come.
it. Right. Nothing bad's going to come out of that experience.
Only good cum is coming out.
If you're really confused on it right now, I would recommend listening or watching our video on witchcraft and paganism. God.
Also, the physiological benefits to masturbation.
I don't know, like,
are just,
it's
great for your health.
Now that I'm sitting here like thinking about it too, I'm like disappointed in myself that I've never tried it because like when a lot of times when I do things like independent rituals, I'm very focused on like female empowerment for myself, especially like let's consider to like the deities I work with. I'm very into like a lot of female empowerment, even if it's not a situation that's necessarily like
What's more empowering
focused
than
on
rubbing one out.
Yeah,
right.
Like, what's more
Exactly
empowering
what I'm
than
saying,
like
which is
getting
why I'm just
yourself off?
Which is why I'm disappointed I've never tried it. I'm like, how did that thought not occur to me? Like, of course, like I should be doing that.
You're
like,
a victim of the patriarchy,
Right.
Ashley.
One
Masturbate
of my,
all the time.
One of my favorite quotes.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying I've never done it after a ritual.
So
Well,
For
you're
clarification.
now you're gonna start
For clarification.
One of my favorite quotes was from Jason Mankey, and he said, if you ever want to work with Pan, just jerk off.
Yeah, Pan just wants to watch you jerk
Yeah,
off.
just jerk off and Pan will arrive.
Hey, baby.
So we're really off topic. Let's get back
Okay.
to Succubus and Succubi
Good
and
call.
Incubi.
Okay, since we're winding down, and this is I have one more story about another succubus story. Couldn't find very many incubus stories, but of course I could find tons of stuff on
Right?
succubus. Imagine that.
Well,
Gonna blame
it's-
the vaginas.
Yeah, it's because the men have no responsibility
blame.
in here. The men in this succubi folklore, the incubi, if you will, they're really just put in there as another conduit to why
Right.
women are evil. Because
Well-
like women take the semen.
To be fair, everything I was trying to find about incubus was all like sex stories.
Well, yeah,
It was
that's
like,
all
it was,
incubus.
It was all like erotic fiction. So it was like I was trying to find more like just
Incubus.
Every time I
just-
tried to search anything about Incubus, it just gave me stuff about the band.
that's the other thing too. I kept
It's like,
getting
I'm
about the
not-
band,
that's
and I
not
kept
what I'm looking
getting
for.
I kept getting stuff about the band. I kept getting erotic like sex
That's not what
stories.
I'm looking for.
And I was like, no, I want like real like stories about people's experiences with this shit. So
all they do is just they take the semen and they somehow magically deform it so that it explains all of the deformities in childbearing, which also means that these women who give birth to children with birth defects have had sex with an incubus, which
yeah,
gives them
found-
the fault too.
Right,
as
they're
well.
to blame.
Yeah, I found tons of stuff like succubi were blamed for sleep paralysis, and one ancient story of succubus makes a pope prosperous. So there's a whole thing about Pope Sylvester II gets he's trying to get attacked by a succubus. So this one is from liveabout.com or liveabout.com. I'm not sure which one it is. But a man, let's see, in December 2012 at Bakersfield, California, a young man named Ethan had a demonic
Ethan.
encounter. Yeah,
Oh, Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan had a demonic encounter. After returning from school, Ethan was tired and worn out, but still had plenty of homework to do. He worked late into the night and before finally collapsing into the bed. He fell asleep instantly, but did not fall asleep soundly. He dreamt that an evil being was in his home and was trying to get into his room. It finally broke in, and as soon as it did, Ethan jolted awake, a ringing sound in his ears. Ethan felt the demon. It was on the wall behind his head, holding Ethan's limbs down. It had something in his ears. And his left ear began to vibrate violently. The strange sensation
Stuck a dildo in his
Say
ear.
dildo
Yeah.
is here.
The strange sensation spread to his right ear as well. Ethan fought as best as he could, but could not break free. He cursed at the being and tried to free his arms or legs. The demon only laughed at him, an eerie, horrific sound that was neither deep nor high-pitched. Again, I don't know how much accurate or truth there is to the story. It's just one website.
Very
that I found.
interesting so far.
The demon cried out soon and released Ethan. Ethan sat up rapidly. Yeah, I know, right?
That's the best thing to yell before you ejaculate, I think.
Totally gonna do that next time. Soon!
10, 9, soon! Fuck.
God damn it.
There's no Zool, only soon.
Only soon.
The demon cried out soon and released Ethan. Ethan sat up rapidly, leaping out of the bed to turn on his lights. But when the lights flooded his room, there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, Ethan's dogs were acting abnormal, barking, leaping at the door, and trying desperately to get to their owner. Now, we've talked about on past how animals always seem to...
Yes.
Like, animals know what's fucking up.
Animals know you're being fucked.
They do actually. They do. My cats every
what- every
time
time.
I have an orgasm, they'll come and check on me and be like, "Oh my god, mom, you
okay?"
are making these noises. Are you okay? We just want to make sure you're still gonna feed us."
So don't be dead.
All right, so he went to the bathroom and was startled to see his reflection in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, and the whites of his eyes were completely red. Ethan realized he'd been visited by a succubus demon.
Well, how does he know it was a succubus if he didn't really see it? It could have been
Right.
an incubus.
Ethan remains
He's
terrified of the
blaming
demon.
Right. Yeah,
It
it could have been
says-
the dick.
Ethan remains terrified of the demon returning, but has not had another incident since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ethan.
So if you look
Ethan
up,
has an active imagination.
when you're trying to
Yes.
find these stories online, like, I mean, it's just like any like haunting or something like that, it's always like that. It's some really vague with some specifics, but then vague again, and it's
And then vague, and you couldn't prove or disprove it.
Exactly, and it's like it doesn't have a full or last name. It doesn't say location. It doesn't even the Annabelle story is like that too. Like even the Annabelle story, like it's very kind of vague about the details about where it all happened and stuff. So
who knows?
yeah. So that is our episode on succubuses and incubuses.
I hope you learned something.
And also
It
sex
was
not,
magic.
I hope you were
it
at
was
least
really just
entertained.
about sex, I
It was about
think.
sex.
Yeah. This was just an excuse for us to just get together.
Talk about drink booze and talk about.
You just wanted to
sex.
bring your horny drunken friend to.
Yep. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Somebody's gonna turn off this episode and go masturbate.
They're not
I
gonna.
hope so.
They've been masturbating throughout this
Exact-
episode.
true.
We want to thank Jades for being on the show with
Yes.
us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you
joining
for
us.
having me.
You can find us online at thespookydoor.com. You can email us with any questions, comments, or concerns, especially about this episode at info@thespookydoor.
You're gonna have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, a lot of concerns.
It depends on what kind of concerns you have.
I'm concerned that Jade is a succubus and
Yes.
she's been masturbating me in my sleep
I'm-
ever since I listened to this episode.
I'm concerned that Jade is a succubus and she's manipulating Jordan and Ashley.
I
Good.
So you can email us at info@thespookydoor.com. God, I'm trying so hard. At the Spooky Door.
hard.
On our website, you can find our merch, anything like that. We have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
You can find our
Twitter.
merch, but we don't have dildos.
Yes.
Yeah.
That might be able to
Whoa.
custom made ones, shaped like a door.
If you're
Yeah.
interested in that, let us know.
On top of that, too, you can find us on YouTube. Just search for the Spooky Door. Just search for the Spooky Door. I'm trying so hard to keep my composure on this one. And also,
You're doing great.
yeah.
If you want to bury a spooky door dildo deep inside you, please let us know and we'll make your sexual fantasies come true.
And you can email Jade at jadekinkadeofficial@gmail.com. Once again, we want to thank Jade for being on the show.
Thank
Oh,
you.
And
You're
journey
welcome. You're
journey
welcome.
with us next time through the Spooky Door.